Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it's time for another edition of Top 5, the series where I talk about absolutely nothing. And the topic of conversation today is going to be this new collaborative EP from Monstercat and Rocket League, fittingly titled Rocket League x Monstercat Volume 2. This, of course, is a follow-up to the massively successful Rocket League x Monstercat Volume 1, which was one of the first videos I did a Top 5 for back in the day. You guys may or may not remember, but back when I did my Top 5 on that particular compilation, I just wasn't a big fan of it in general. I kind of had a hard time picking favorites just because I didn't really feel the tracks on that album were up to par with other tracks by the same artists who were, contributed to the album. And that's not to say that I thought the songs in that album were particularly bad or anything, it's just that given they had such a great pool of artists going into that compilation, I guess I expected a little bit more. The songs felt really half-baked to me, and you know, revisiting it, I don't think it's that bad of an album in general, but I do kind of stand by my opinions on it. However, I myself was looking forward to the follow-up to this compilation EP here. Monstercat has made some really big changes this year, in my opinion, both kind of good and bad, and I do think them kind of throwing together this EP as an uncaged product makes a little bit more sense. I like the direction that they're kind of going with this. The compilation to me definitely feels more cohesive than the last one. I think the artists are generally all going for a little bit more of an aggressive sound, so that kind of helps. I also think once again that there's a really great pool of artists here, a lot of different producers that didn't get a chance last time, except Stonebank. Of course, he gets a second appearance on this one, but the last one was Zero Hero, so I guess it only partially counts. I think the thing that makes this compilation so enjoyable to me, though, is that the songs on this album, when you look at them individually and the artists that make them, I feel like they match up a lot better with the artist's other content, whereas the first compilation didn't really do that. I feel like in this instance, almost all the artists were able to bring their A game, which makes it a lot more special to me, and you know, I would highly recommend this EP, even if you're just listening to it outside Rocket League. Another thing that I wanted to mention on this EP before I forget is that the content of it, I feel like, does match the kind of Rocket League theme a little bit better. I wasn't necessarily feeling that with the last one. I wasn't really getting like a video game music vibe, maybe with the exception of Rocket by Tokyo Machine, and that one was kind of purposely doing that. This one seems to feel a little bit more intentional to me. Anyway, we should probably get into my top 5, and this time things are going to be a little bit different because the EP is so much significantly shorter than the last one that they did. When that one was 18 tracks, this one is just 6, so doing a top 5 is like, I basically have to do every single track, and then I'm going to have to explain anyway why number 6 didn't end up making it on my top 5 cut. So this is going to be a little bit more of a ranking, I decided, than an actual like top 5 where I typically don't like do them in any particular order. I'm actually going to do them 6 to 1 this time, so it's, you know, deal with it. I guess I should say my least favorite track on this EP, the one that's not going to make my top 5, is gonna be the Pegboard Nerds and Anna Yvette track, Party Freaks. And that's not to knock on Pegboard Nerds or Anna Yvette, both artists I have a lot of respect and love for, though I'm personally getting very similar vibes on this song to the last collaboration Pegboard Nerds and Anna did together, the Melody Mania VIP of sorts that she did vocals for. Although I would say this song sounds a lot less forced, I would definitely take Party Freaks over that version of Melody Mania any day. I'd say it ultimately ends up being a bit more of a miss than a hit. I think Anna Yvette is a fantastic vocalist, and I really think she does have a place in the EDM world, but I don't think that place is necessarily doing these kind of drawn-out pop hooks. And once again, that's not necessarily to rag on her or to rag on the Pegboard Nerds, because I think they're both very talented. I just don't think taking someone with the level of talent as Anna Yvette and then kind of pulling her back into doing something like a simple pop hook is really suited for her. The lyrics are a little bit fun and catchy, but they're nowhere near as inspiring as a lot of Anna's features are. And then, I mean, the drop on this song didn't really save it for me either. I was getting a little bit of Blackout vibes from it, where Pegboard Nerds are going for a little bit more of a groovy sound, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like this drop was that interesting or rewarding. And falling not too far behind that is my number 5 track, Flow by Slippy. Kind of similarly to Monstercat's changes going into 2018, I've kind of had similar thoughts in regards to Slips and Slurs and his changing to Slippy. I like that he's kind of going for a little bit of a fresh start, though I also think him getting off the ground with this new alias has been a little bit of a slow-moving wheel. While I would say that the Slippy alias has a little bit more of a defined sound, it's definitely a little bit more signature than the stuff releasing as Slips and Slurs was. I think the major trade-off is that there's just not a lot of diversity to be had. I mean, to me, this song just sounds like a Promise Me 2.0. I guess to me, Flow is a bit more memorable. I mean, it has a couple more sticky melodies that I feel like are gonna stay with me a little bit longer, and I'll probably be listening to this song a little bit more. Other than that, I don't really have a ton to say about this track. I mean, it's decent, it's well produced, but it also feels a little bit recycled. Given how much I actually like this EP, I feel like I'm complaining a bit more than I should, but yeah, you know, it's gonna keep happening. I'm tired and I'm just gonna let it all out. My number 4 is a little tune called Truth and Malice by Intercom. From what I've seen at least, this song seems to be the kind of Monstercat community favorite, and I mean, it makes sense. I don't think there's another song on Monstercat specifically that sounds like Truth and Malice, but holy crap, this song sounds so much like Porter Robinson's Fellow Feeling, it's not even funny. In fact, if you take Truth and Malice and put it into like a pitch editor and bring it up like 6 semitones, it's practically the same track. I mean, there are obviously some distinct characteristics about Truth and Malice. I, for one, really enjoyed the vocal chops. I think that was something Porter Robinson didn't really focus on in that song. And obviously the first drop is basically completely different from Fellow Feeling. I mean, he didn't really go for this specific electro sound when he did that song, but Intercom did a good job in that regard, I guess. But I mean, the formula is there, and it's very there. I mean, a lot of the melodies sound almost identical to how they do in Fellow Feeling with the violin, and then the chording as well, and the last drop, of course, just practically the same thing. Maybe with a couple elements of Goodbye to a World from the same Porter Robinson album kind of blended into there as well. Truth and Malice is a very well-produced Porter Robinson ripoff, but it is a Porter Robinson ripoff nonetheless. For my number 3, I'm gonna have to give it to Kovin with My Love, and Kovin is a duo that I've kind of been itching to talk a little bit more about in depth, although I feel like every single opportunity I have ends up getting squashed and they end up getting thrown into rapid-fire reviews, which is gonna be the same case for their new retrospective LP, which I actually enjoyed a lot. And strangely enough, I don't actually think I have a ton to say about this track other than it's just a solid song. Really nice vocals as always from Katie, and I thought the lyrics were pretty down-to-earth and relatable as well. A really colorful kind of melodic bass line that I really enjoyed, and I think I've been kind of enjoying that kind of stuff more since Harvey spent the week at my house. He taught me to appreciate that kind of stuff a little bit more. The vocal chops aren't super obnoxious. There's a nice blend of heavier and more soothing elements. And I mean, it's definitely not my favorite Kovin Monstercat release. I think Telling Me still tops that list for me, but it's definitely not my least favorite either. Just a solid track, just like a really solid melodic drum step track. Number 2 is going to be Mr. Michael Stonebank with What Are You Waiting For? I'm going to resist the urge to complain about the title, even though the vocal clearly says what you waiting for, but it's fine, it's totally fine. Regardless, I think this song makes for like one of the best electro house songs Monstercat has released in probably the last year. We really don't get this particular style that often, and I don't think I've really heard it since Stonebank's Monument EP. I will admit, before I knew the song was confirmed to be Stonebank, I did think it was a case in point track for whatever reason. Maybe it was in the melodies or just like some of the synths that were used, but I was definitely getting kind of a case in point vibe. Regardless, I think this track is enjoyable as hell. I love the bass growls. Kind of even got a little bit of like an old school Skrillex vibe from this track. And in general, I'd probably say the reason I like this track so much is more for its nostalgic factor than necessarily its uniqueness. Kind of takes me back to late 2013, early 2014 when I was really starting to dig on electro for the very first time. I think this is the first track in really a long time that's kind of put me back into that mindset. So obviously it's going to be a little bit special, and it kicks too. Like this song's an absolute banger. I can confirm the song is also fun as hell to jam to live. I saw Tokyo Machine about a month ago in Seattle, and when he played this song, I just went absolutely crazy. And I guess that only leaves one more, my number one, which is going to be the new Protostar song, New Horizons. I'd say New Horizons is my favorite song in this EP for a number of different reasons. Although I think the thing that makes this track such a winner for me is its use of contrast between like really simple and really complex. There's like this very simple kind of fluttering lead melody that goes on throughout the track, but then that's simultaneously undertoned by a lot of really complex, really heavy kind of neuro bass. I guess in general I wouldn't really say I dislike Protostar's music, but I do think this song sticks out in particular from the rest of his discography. It definitely places more of a focus on its key melodic elements and steps back a little bit from the sound design aspect in regards to neurofunk. New Horizons isn't really too hefty on either side. It's got like the perfect blend of pretty and crazy. Just how I like my women, am I right? Nah, but seriously, like props to Protostar for crafting this track. This ended up being a really nice blend that I ended up enjoying a lot, and I think a lot of other people are resonating with that same thing as well. This is probably one of my favorite Protostar tracks in a while, and I don't think I've ever featured him in a top 5, so having him at number 1 I guess is a cool thing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Top 5. I know the format was a little bit weird this time around, and obviously that's probably going to be the same case next time. I think they're planning on doing like an Instinct like Rocket League compilation, so obviously I'm going to be reviewing that, and if it ends up being 6 tracks it's going to be in a similar boat. So look forward to that whenever that comes out. Obviously in regards to Monstercat content, I've got the Instinct Volume 1 compilation, which is going to be really huge. I might end up doing like a top 10 for that just because there's so many tracks on it. But we'll see what happens to it. Why don't you guys, since things were a little bit weird, just let me know what you're ranking down in the comment section below. Obviously, I'll be able to figure out your 6th track anyway if you give me your top 5. So you might as well just rank them down in the comment section. Although a lot of you have probably been listening to this compilation for a few weeks now because it has been out for a decent amount of time. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's time for me to get some sleep. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.